Okay, good evening. My name is Richard Rand. I'm the chairman of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals, January 25th, 2022 meeting, and I'll call the meeting to order. And we just have an opening. We have to put in this opening meeting of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals. This open meeting of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16th, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Zoning Board of Appeals are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Zoning Board of Appeals to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to the Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed in the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public content. And I'd just like to identify the members of the board that are here. Just say aye when I call your name. Mark Rattan.
Aye.
Fran Backstrand.
Aye.
Brad Blanchett.
Aye.
Jeff Leland.
Aye.
Paul Tagliaferri.
Aye.
Okay, and from town officials, we have town engineer Fred Litchfield,
Here.
and we have the building inspector Robert Federico.
Here.
Okay. First item on the agenda is to consider a petition of Opportunities LLC for a special permit to extend the use by 50 feet into a more restricted zone at 40 and 44 Lawrence Street, map 105, parcels 3 and 4, located in the residential C zoning district and the groundwater protection overlay district areas 2 and 3. And we have Mr. Connors, the attorney, present. Not seeing him.
I'm moving him over now. You should be in shortly.
Okay.
Should be here now.
We can hear you now, Mr. Connors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to present your application?
Sure, I represent, as you noted, Opportunities. They own some property at 40 Lawrence Street. There's an existing house on a lot there. Aside from that, there is a existing structure, a garage and outbuilding on an adjacent parcel. They have been existing lots for quite some time, although somewhat merged for zoning purposes due to a width requirement that is since been addressed by subdividing the land under A&R to give the appropriate width. At this point in time, they're replacing the septic system on the existing house on the lot on the left. On the right side, we have the existing garage and outbuilding constituting about 1,150 square feet. And we're replacing that with a house in that area, a little bit more into the groundwater 3 than that building was, mostly in the groundwater 2, 900 square feet. And out in front in the groundwater 3, we have the proposed septic system for that. Those septic systems have been reviewed by the Board of Health and approved into groundwater, and the various technical issues with respect to infiltration have been addressed. I believe satisfactorily. I will note that the existing conditions out there had no infiltration, including that garage, and this particular house will have infiltration. Relative to the various criteria for groundwater protection and recharge, I think that particular project provides more than was there originally. The issue really is the special permit, and I think that's morphed into something that I'll get into in a second, an issue as to land area. But clearly the petition is to allow the use of the groundwater 3 to extend 50 feet into the groundwater 2 for the placement of that house. Again, that house is in an area where the existing garage is. With respect to the bylaw, there has been quite a bit of discussion relative to it being a interpretation that we need 20,000 square feet in the groundwater 3 zone. I disagree with that. There's some correspondence back and forth. I still hold that position. I'd like to be able to explore that for a moment here. We have what's called an overlay zoning district, which is, includes groundwater in this particular instance. Northborough has other overlay districts. And on page 7.1 of your zoning bylaw, you have a table of chapters, and 7-04 is called zoning districts. 7-07 is overlay districts. They're distinct and different districts. And then on page 7-23, we have classification of district. We have residential, general residential, and all the various Lydian zoning districts. And then we have the overlay districts, which include groundwater again. So there's a clear distinction in my mind between base zoning district and the overlaying zoning district. And in this particular application where we are working in the 3, we seek to invoke the provision which requires the special permit to extend the groundwater 3 uses into the groundwater 2 uses by that 50 feet, to wit, basically the house, and it replaces the garage again. Sorry to keep repeating that, but I think it's important. In the groundwater 3, we have residential development of single-family dwelling units as allowed in the underlying district. There are some qualifiers relative to infiltration, impervious cover, and things beyond that, but it's the underlying district, which here it is the C district. The residential C district has 20,000 square feet as the residential C zone requires. So I submit that an overlay district simply does not preclude using land within the zone 2 because the underlying zone has been met. And I think that really, if you evaluate what is happening here, there is an increase in infiltration. There is a better use of the land. It was a pre-existing lot. It needed a little bit of maneuvering for width. But I do believe that in all instances where one would read a bylaw and know what's reasonably expected in the groundwater 3 zone, there is no particular dimensional requirement. Contrast that with the groundwater 2, where they want 40,000 square feet, and the groundwater 1, where they want 80,000 square feet. There is absolutely no number of square footage under groundwater area 3 relative to this. So I would be happy to respond to questions and comments.
Okay, thank you. Fred, could you address some of these issues? Fred?
I can. Well, let's see. The groundwater committee has met a couple of times and sought opinion from town council, which has been shared with you. The groundwater committee did stipulate that the items that Attorney Connors indicated at the beginning of his introduction are true and accurate, that the impervious cover of limit of 15% is met. Infiltration is provided where none was there before. There's no increase in the, there's not a increase beyond the 15% volume in the runoff associated with either of these lots. And both of them, I believe, have septic systems that are an improvement over what was there. The groundwater committee agreed with all that. In the letter that I sent to you on their behalf, they indicated they were uncomfortable rendering recommendation on the special permit because it was really more of a legal aspect than it was a groundwater quality issue. So they asked to not make that, they decided not to make a recommendation and leave it for all of you to decide. I believe that town council opinion is accurate and consistent from both of the times he was asked. He's received all the information that Attorney Connors presented to us so that he could review the arguments. And he came to the same conclusion the second time around. The crux is really that I believe what the building inspector, and in a minute he can speak for himself, has done in the past is indicated that you can't use the land area in a more restrictive zone to meet the lot area requirement in a less restrictive zone. So the line is in between groundwater 3 and groundwater 2. And so if you have all the land area that's required in groundwater 3, you have a building lot if you're trying to work in the groundwater 3 area. If you need to use land in the rear of the lot that's in groundwater 2 to satisfy the land area requirement for the zone in the front, that has not been allowed in the past. And so for that reason, the town council agreed with the building inspector's previous determination that it wouldn't be a building lot with or without the special permit being granted, is my understanding. So I'll let Bob tell you, as the zoning enforcement officer, his opinion. But beyond that, I don't have much else to add at this point.
Thanks, Fred. Bob, could you give us your input?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Echoing what, Fred Litchfield, just spoke about regarding using one zone versus another. I want to back up just a little bit and talk about these lots. I believe were A&R'd recently, and the previous lots had before the A&R may have enjoyed more pre-existing non-conforming uses, which to expand. I think in this case, since the A&R has been involved, any kind of historical comfort from grandfathering is gone, because they create a new lot and everything has to conform. Given that what Fred Litchfield said earlier in terms of prior experiences using groundwater 3, groundwater 2. I get confused myself, but using one groundwater district against another has been problematic, and I don't see it. I think in this case, if they were to continue, you're going to have to probably seek some sort of a variance from the ZBA. But as it sits right now, I can't deem it a buildable lot.
May I respond?
Okay. Mr. Connors, you want to respond to that?
I would like to, yes, thank you. I'm sorry, C3 in the groundwater protection bylaw says where a groundwater protection district boundary line divides a lot in single or common ownership at the time such district is established, a use authorized in the less restricted portion, that would be the 2 here, may be extended into the more restricted portion, but in no case more than 50 feet over the established line. I have no idea what that means if it doesn't allow you to use groundwater 2 zone for the use in the groundwater 3. And couple that with the provision in the requirement for the 3 zone with a right to build a single family house, complying with the underlying district. It's not making sense in the rational aspect of this. We have the ability to go into a less restrictive zone by 50 feet to make the lot usable. I do disagree with the building inspector as to the pre-existing non-conforming aspect being changed, because the underlying zoning is A, 20,000 square feet, and B, an A&R plan simply is a recording statute that allows you to record the plan. It has no validity until such time as a lot is transferred. So I do wish that we could get a decision that allows this to be moved 50 feet into the less restrictive zone, placing a structure, something that infiltrates with a septic system in an area that's allowed in the underlying zoning district. Again, there's no area requirement, contrasted with two, which has 40,000, and the one that has 80,000 square feet.
Finished, Mr.
I
Conley?
think so for now. I'm not giving up.
So the A and R, it's been filed with the planning board?
Has been signed. Yes.
Yes,
And do you have a date on that?
April 7th, 2021, I believe, somewhere in the month of April last year.
All right. I don't recall the date exactly.
Okay, thank you. We'll open it up to board members.
Okay.
Paul?
Fran, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just
Okay.
to make sure that I have, how large is that second lot that we're referring to? Is it 27,000 square feet?
20,761.
So it's just over the underlying district's requirement for a buildable lot.
Correct.
How much of that 20,000 square feet is in the most restrictive zone that would require 40,000 square feet for buildable?
I would say, just looking at it by eye, about 2/3 of it. is in
2/3?
more restrictive,
2/3?
Roughly,
Okay.
by eye.
The structure that you're proposing is going to be built on the 1/3 that is less restrictive, but will encroach into the more restrictive by less than 50 feet?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Fran. Paul, did you want to speak?
I think Fran kind of hits, I was just looking for just to confirm a couple of the numbers. And, I think, so just to kind of repeat what we're looking at here is we have two lots. One is 20,000 square feet. One is 29,000 square feet. About 2/3 of the lot that their house is going to be built on is in groundwater 2, which is the more restrictive portion of it, which requires 40,000 square feet as the minimum lot size.
The groundwater too?
In
Yes.
groundwater 2, right? Okay. And so if this house was built all in groundwater 3, right, this would
Yes.
not be an issue. But only because the house is being built in half groundwater 2, half groundwater 3, is that?
That is the way I look at it, yes.
But our zoning enforcement officer is saying that you have to look at the entire lot and look at it as if it was all groundwater 2, which is the restrictive one, and therefore it's not buildable because it does not have 40,000 square feet. Neither of them
Okay.
do.
Okay, so then is that, and Bob and Fred, correct me if I'm wrong, is that what we're being asked is for today, is to sort of give relief on the groundwater to 40,000 square foot minimum versus what is actually there, which is 22 and 27 or 20 and 29? Is that what we're being asked for today?
Bob, can you answer that?
I'm trying to figure out if Bob wants to answer or if he wants me to answer. So he's the zoning enforcement officer. I'm trying not to take over for him.
Well, this is one of those situations where Fred and I collaborate quite a bit, because he's better at the math than I am, to be quite honest. But using one restricted area versus another, I think is contrary to the intent of the bylaw. We have used it in this particular circumstance before on other properties in town. So, you know, I still think at the end of the day, if the board wants to, you know, allow this sort of thing, I still think, maybe a variance is going to be okay, because we're not concerned about the actual use of the property. This comes down to a dimensional requirement, where one more restrictive use in size of the lot is being asked to cover for another one. So I think that, you know, it's a difficult situation, but I don't see where it could be rendered to be buildable unless the board sees otherwise.
So I
Ma'am?
guess. Sorry, Frank, you can go ahead.
Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, so I just want to be clear. I know that we have 2 lots here, but only one of them is at issue because it doesn't actually already have a house on it, or each of them, right? The one that has an existing house is similar. It has part in zone 2, part in zone 3, but that's not the one in question. It's only the one that had just the garage that we're concerned with. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hey,
So
Paul,
then I
go
guess,
ahead.
sorry, just another point. So for clarification, it's only the one lot, right, in which they are looking for relief on. And Bob, your determination, or your determination, I should say, right, is that because it's split between groundwater 2 and groundwater 3, he needs at least a minimum of 40,000 square feet. So that's the relief, right?
Right.
He needs 40,000 square feet of groundwater 2. 2/3 of the lot is in groundwater 2. They're building a house, and the property size is, which one is it? Is it the 20,000 square foot?
Underlying zoning,
No, the property in which the garage exists on, is it the
20.
105, 20? Okay. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Anyone else? Fred?
I think the issue is the special permit that's requested is to allow the use to extend into the more restrictive zone. It does not necessarily translate to dimensional requirements, just the use. I think in this case, if he had 20,000 square feet in outside of the groundwater 2 area, then he would have a lot. Or he'd have to have 40,000 square feet located within groundwater 2 and 3 combined. I believe the intent of the special permit to allow the applicant to move the groundwater line into the more restrictive area was not intended to allow 2 lots to be built where only one could have been before. And he had 1 house and 1 garage before on these 2 lots. And I believe that's what he should remain with. And that by utilizing this special permit to gain a 2nd lot, I don't believe is what was intended when the bylaw was adopted. We have utilized the theory that you can't use the area within a groundwater, more restrictive groundwater area to satisfy the groundwater, the lot area requirements of the less restrictive one in the past. And that is what town council weighed in as being consistent and agreed to with what the building inspector has determined in the past. And now you can see why the groundwater advisory committee didn't really want to make a recommendation.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
I respond yet again.
Go ahead, Mr. Connors.
And we have residential development is allowed in the underlying district. The underlying district is 20,000 square feet here. We have an overlay district. When we go to the groundwater protection provision for 50 feet, we can go into the less restricted district. So I don't know how you can get to 20,000 square feet in the 3 zone or 40 in the 2 zone And then what the 50 does for you if it's there. This is just simple statutory construction. You look at the language and you have to give meaning to each and every one of these things. And then you have to be able to look at it as a layman, not an engineer, not a lawyer, as a layman, and say, this is what I can do. I look at 2 and I see 40,000. I look at 3 and I see 80,000. I'm sorry, 1, I see 80,000. I look at 2, and I don't, I'm sorry, 3, and I don't, start again. I look at 1, it's 80,000. I look at 2, it's 40,000. I look at 3, there's no square footage. None. Underlying, that would be the square footage. And I can go 50 feet.
Okay, Mr. Collins. Susie, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Sorry for being late.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, my own read on this is that you would need a variance to do this. And
What would
not
the
a special
variance
permit.
be?
Variance from the 40,000 requirement of the dimensional requirement for the groundwater. 2. Okay.
Well, I'll have to talk to my client about that, but can we continue this meeting for another month to evaluate that? I'm not quite sure that that's the answer, but I think
Well,
that
let's
makes
ask
sense
the
rather
building
than-
inspector, the zoning enforcement officer, if that's a possibility, not to say it's going to pass, but.
No, I understand that. I
Yeah.
understand that.
Bob,
not
if you could answer that?
I'm still, I mean, obviously, Mr. Connors and I are probably seeing the same situation from different angles. And it might be a matter of interpretation, but what I'm standing on is what we've done in the past for previous properties. And, that's obviously we're with the board tonight. But I can see that my standpoint is it's essentially a dimensional requirement, and the 50 feet thing, that's a special permit. But even still, at the end of the day, I think it might require a dimensional variance for lot area requirement.
Anyone else? Fran?
Yeah, I just want to just hold my place for a second. Because I think it's unfortunate that if the intent of the bylaw was not to create A&Rs to, work around it, well, that's just good, I guess, like lawyering, because it doesn't have to. I mean, they divided it and they made 2 buildable lots. But I guess I don't see how it isn't exactly how it's written. But reading the pages that from our attorney, his opinion is that the underlying, without the restrictive area of area 2, you have to have 20,000 square feet. I don't know how you argue again. I mean, that's two different legal opinions. I don't know how we actually weigh in on that.
Well, that's actually
sure.
3 now with 20, 40, and me saying that we don't need 20 in the groundwater 2-3 area. We have 20 in the entire site. And all of a sudden, we're talking about 40. Your attorney says 20. So again, what would the variance be? Can we
The
continue?
variance from the 40,000 square foot requirement for the groundwater too.
Your attorney just said 20,000.
Yeah.
it's a poor, inartfully worded bylaw, which we see all the time, all the time. And with respect to the A&R, the A&R simply widened a lot so that we had the setback, lot width. It didn't change anything. And again, there's been no transfer. So it is simply a plan. So may I ask for a continuance for a month?
Chair,
Paul, go ahead.
Chair Ryan, can I ask one question? So do you know how much of the proposed new structure where the garage is infringes onto the groundwater 2 area?
900 square feet, where 1150 was existing.
I guess, put another way, like,
Sorry, 1050.
if you were to take the line of the groundwater 2 versus 3, or whatever you want to side you're on, how far into groundwater 2 at the highest point, if you were thinking about it almost like a parallel line, is that point away from groundwater, that line? Meaning, say the corner of the house, right, to the groundwater 2-3 line.
In the longest, which is on the right side of the house, it's about 24 feet. It extends 24 feet from the groundwater 2-3 line into the groundwater 2, the more restricted area at the right-hand side. And it creates this little four-sided figure that's more like a trapezoid. And that is 900 square feet, where the existing garage and whatever was 1,056.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. We have a request before us for a continuance to the next meeting, which is February 22nd. Fred?
Just wanted to point out one thing before you take up the continuance, in that the Form A plan that was signed does not necessarily indicate approval as 2 buildable lots. They're lots,
That's correct.
and they have frontage and area, but they're not necessarily determined to be buildable just by signing the Form A lot. And I thought that Fran had thought otherwise, and I wanted to clarify that. So the fact that the planning board signed them does not indicate that they're buildable. I believe that the building inspector's interpretation is they're not buildable lots because there isn't either the 20,000 square feet within the groundwater 3 or the no area, or 40,000 square feet within the groundwater 2 area. So I believe they had one lot before, one house with one garage, and they still would have one lot, but not 2. And if you were to grant a variance, then on the dimensional requirements, you'd effectively be allowing him to make it into 2 lots, if that's what the board ultimately gets requested for and determines to do in the future.
Thank you, Fred.
Well, I'm just in agreement with you, Fred, that this needs a variance in order to make it work if this board agrees to that. Whether or not we agree is the decision we make down the road.
Correct.
We make a decision on a variance that isn't pending.
Correct.
Correct. So we're giving you, we give you a continuance to our next meeting, February 22nd at 6 p.m. And you can address the board then with whatever you decided to do.
Thank you. You're going to vote on it?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a
Well,
motion.
Go ahead, Brett.
Oh, yeah, make a motion to continue the hearing for 40 to 44 Lawrence Street special permit to continue it to our February 22nd, 2022. Yeah, 22222. Yeah, there we go.
I'll second.
Okay, Mark seconded. Brad made the motion. All those in favor? Brad,
Aye.
Fran,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I'm in favor also. Aye.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Mr. Guys, we'll see you February
Thank you.
22nd, 2022.
Thank you. Two.
Yeah. I was all confused.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the November 23rd, 2021 minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes of the November 23rd, 2021 minutes as submitted.
Here a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Fran made a motion, Mark seconded. All those in favor? Fran,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Brad,
Mr. Chair, I was not at that meeting, so I need to recuse myself. I was in Hawaii, so just to rub that in.
Paul? Paul, you want it?
Humble brag. Aye.
Okay, and Susie, you were at that meeting?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's the only thing we have on the agenda. I just wanted to make a mention that since our last meeting in November, on November 29th, the Attorney General's office came back with a decision on the open meeting law complaint that Amy Paretsky and another citizen made against the board. And the Attorney General's office ruled that the board did not violate the open meeting law. And that's, they were given the opportunity to speak at the meeting, and it is up to the chairman whether or not they were allowed to speak at other occasions during the meeting. And Fran, who's the chair, was right in her decisions that night during those hearings. I just want to get that out there. Okay, anything else?
Absolutely.
Not seeing any. You have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I motion we adjourn.
Okay, Fran,
I'll second.
Mark seconded. Fran made the motion. All those in favor? Fran,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
myself, aye. Thank you very much, everyone.